Yes, people, it's just Tim and I. Is that the proper grammar, Tim? Tim and I? Or
Tim
I
and
and
me, you are making my
Tim and
mother very mad right now.
yeah.
You don't say it's just I, you say it's
You say
just
it's just
me.
me. All
Tim
right.
and
Yeah.
me. Come
It's
on,
Tim and me
man.
tonight. It's Tim
Yeah.
and me tonight.
I'm gonna call my
Allie,
mom and tell her that I did her proud and corrected you.
yeah, ask her if can I get some home tutoring? Is she available for some home tutoring?
She's 80, bro, so it might be a little slow.
All
That's all I'm
expenses
saying.
paid.
Yep. Yep. And if the internet goes down at her house, you're fucked
Oh, I
because
could do the
she'll be
Zoom.
calling me to try to get it the shit back online, and I'll be like, just push this button, and she'll be like, I don't see any button. What button? You tell.
Eh,
I know how it goes.
Was she one of those teachers that used a ruler as a weapon?
I don't know. I mean, she was a teacher. I mean, she did not use it on me. I got the traditional wooden spoon. You know what I
There you
mean? So
go.
what was in the kitchen at the time? But I don't think
Yeah.
that she was really part of that era. She was 40 years a teacher, and I think she started out early in like sixth grade. So, but then she kind of backtracked and did like preschool, fourth grade, third grade, stuff like that. And by then, kids were threatening, that their kids abused them, parents
Yeah.
abused them
Yeah.
if they got spankings. So I think she stayed away from that.
Yeah. I had nuns, so they did a lot of spankings.
Yeah.
I got a lot. Well, Tim and me tonight. Allie, of course, is in Washington D.C. What is that? I forget now. What they're doing over there? What is that? The
Running for
convention.
president? Yeah.
She could be. I would
Yeah.
vote for her.
Yeah.
I would vote for her. No, it is the tobacco. What is that, Timmy? Again, come on, Tim. Don't let me down.
Fines and violations and things of that nature. Penalties, fines, turn your pockets inside out bullshit.
Yeah, something like that. She's gonna kick our ass when she goes back on next week. She's gonna be like,
No, I
"You
don't know
guys
what
just
she's
talking."
doing. Are you talking about Allison? I have no idea what
Yeah,
she's up to. I have no
Allison.
idea.
She's gonna tell us. I've been talking about this for
There
2
you go.
weeks.
Somebody already said it. E-Sig Summit right there.
E6 Summit. How can we forget that, Tim? How can we forget?
I don't know. I'll explain later as to why.
Let's blame it. Let's blame it on our age. Let's just say it's our age. It's our age. Yes, Allie is at E-Sig Summit. Paul's sick and Phillip is sick, and we may have Jeffrey jump on. Jeffrey may be jumping on. He is traveling to Mexico, and as soon as he gets in his B&B, he may jump in with us and help us with our topics tonight. The reason I wanted to bring up this topic is I think, this is the time of the year. Most of us start doing our traveling. Most of us start doing, start vacationing and going different places. Those that have money, right, Tim? Those that have money can get to travel around the world. Not neither one of us. But yeah, so I figure, it'd be kind of good way to find some websites that'll help you look it up really quickly. I found a nice website. I'll put it on when we get to that subject, and it's all about tobacco. And all you have to do is put in the country, the city, or whatever, and it'll let you know exactly what the laws are for that country and that city, the fines, the penalties, whether you can or cannot bring stuff in. So I figured let's do that. We'll touch on a few other places that have all out bans. A few of them that we're going to discuss tonight. And here, let me pull them up. Thailand, Brazil, Mexico, and of course, India. India is one that makes me laugh. There's some changes that have happened in a few of these countries that just it makes me laugh, Tim. It's just like we give up. It's like it's still banned, but we give up, and that's what it seems like. Thailand
Who
has
gives
done.
up?
Thailand,
Who gives up?
the government. The government just says we give up.
Oh, you
we
mean
banned it.
they've banned it, but they've given up enforcing it.
Yeah, they just said, you know what, we're done. We can't afford this. Look at that home phone. In
Who has a
Thailand,
home phone anymore?
yeah. I'm going to pause it there. I still do. I have to keep it for at least another year. But yeah, so Thailand is one of those countries where the government has just said, you know what, screw it. We can't control it. It's out of control. We can't do much about it. Changed a lot of the fines and a lot of the requirements for tourists. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But let's find out how well Tim's week has been going, Tim.
Well, I don't know if anybody's familiar with warehousing and operations and logistics. And if you are, you would know that every now and again you have to do an inventory. And so this past 5 days, I have been in Virginia doing a massive wire inventory audit. So I work for an organization that is a commercial and residential electrical and lighting contractor. And so one of the big core of their business is wire. And so I don't
Yeah.
know the first fucking thing about wire. I mean, I know some basics, but not what's going on in that building. And so that's what I've been doing the last 5 days. But let's talk about the good side of things. I did have a wonderful cruise. That's why I was out for 2 weeks, 2 shows. I was gone on the Monsters of Rock cruise for roughly 6 days or something like that. 5 days on the water, Puerto Plata and
Huh?
Labadee. Of course, I didn't get off the boat because it's a festival. It's a music festival. So why the
Yeah.
fuck do I want to go look at Tchotchke when I can go watch rock and roll shows? So,
Yeah,
but
but
that
you
was a
get to
great.
go off the boat and experience the environment, the
No,
culture.
if you want
No.
that, if you want that culture, then go on a regular cruise. Don't go on a
Yeah,
full chartered 40 plus band floating
yeah.
festival with 3 stages and all kinds of shit going on. So yeah, nope, no
Good
Tchotchke
question.
for this kid.
Good question for Mr. Tim. How was the vape experience on the cruise?
Well, to be quite honest with you, it was a lot better than I had expected. So let's point out the obvious. I'm vaping, right? So I can vape in my fucking cabin.
Yeah.
No, I'm no dummy. You know what I mean? They can't smell that stuff. They can't tell what's been in there. I'm not setting off any alarms or anything like
Right.
that. So I didn't have to wander up to the deck at 2 in the morning to grab a smoke or something weird like that. But they did reopen the casino for our charter for smoking and vaping. So you were
Nice.
able to hang out in the air conditioning with the pleasant sounds of ding, 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 ding,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
people won tons of money and you could drink your beers and vape. So no,
A- And
it was really no problem.
and you got to hear that phrase the whole time you were there, "Winner, winner, chicken dinner," right?
I think I probably said that on my own a million times, not anybody on the cruise ship. No, the thing on the cruise ship, if anybody's ever been on a cruise ship, especially post COVID,
Yeah,
they're real big on washing hands.
yeah,
Real big on washing your hands. They were big on it before, but now they're even bigger on it. So they basically have like 4 sentries in front of the buffet called the Windjammer. And as soon as you're around the corner to enter the buffet, these people, bless their hearts, they're from all different countries. And so
yeah,
they got some English under their belt, but it's washy, washy, washy,
yeah,
washy, washy,
yeah.
washy, 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 washy.
Tim's Tim spits on his hands.
Yeah, well, I think I probably would have been sent down to the brig if I was doing that, but instead they kind of there are these little, washing stations right
Yeah.
along the wall as you enter the buffet. So, but anyway, it was a
So
great experience.
so how was it, being in a closed environment with smokers? It's probably been a while for you, right?
Well, yeah, I would have to say that, you in certain situations, as much as you would prefer to be away from it, you kind of
Mhm.
learn to tolerate it. But it would bring back a lot of memories, and it would also remind me of exactly why I vape
Yep.
and the smell and just sort of like it can never escape you because everyone around you has a cigarette, and it makes you wonder like why don't more of you vape? Like
Yeah,
are cigarettes just that awesome that but
yeah,
I don't lecture anybody, but I'm
yeah.
like here I
Did you
am.
feel the urge to like, did you look at somebody and say, "I've gotta help this person out. I wanna"
Nah, I
no?
mean, there were plenty of conversations about it. Lots
Because
of
they
people are like,
seeing you. They're watching you hit that thing.
yeah, and then a lot of time, and ironically, a few times too, they like somebody would be like, "Hey, you got a lighter?" And I'd be like, "No," and I would like hold up my vape. I'd hold up my vape, and they go,
No.
"Oh, I used to do that." So a lot of
Uh,
people have reverted. I don't know if it's because of out of fear. I don't know
yeah,
if it's because they are dual use. They were a dual user and struggling, and vaping didn't do it for them. Now, had I been engaged and they said, "Well, I tried it and I just really
yeah,
didn't find anything that made me happy or
yeah,
or kept me doing it," I could have probably given them some information. to maybe get them to go back towards that. So, but I try not to kick in too many doors, especially in an environment like that, because you don't want to rub anybody wrong in a community environment.
I was okay at the casino. The only time it bothered, well, they have the, of course, over here is the Indian casino. They have the section where it's non-smokers and then the section for smokers. So I'm having to go in there. It's no big deal. Same machines, a little bit different room. One of the things I noticed was it's a lot darker in the smoking vaping area than it is in the regular area. It's like let's keep them in the dark, let's dim it as light as dark as possible for them. And the only time it bothered me is I had a person that was smoking next to me, and it didn't bother me when she was holding the cigarette and smoking it. It bothered me when she laid it in the ashtray, and it would just kind of sit there
and smolder.
And smolder, and it was coming because listen, when you're smoking, listen, even when we vape, we always have that urge to blow it away from us. We don't kind of blow it in our face. So as when she was smoking, she was constantly kind of blowing it away. But now it's between the two machines, mine and her machine, and it's kind of just sitting there in the ashtray, just kind of smoldering
into your area. Yeah. The ventilation systems in those casinos on the boat are pretty intense. So, I mean, a lot of it was just being sort of like sucked up right into the air. But go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt. I was just.
Yeah. That was the only time it kind of bothered me. It was just, and I didn't say nothing to her, but she did take interest in my vaping. She did ask me what I was doing. And I can't remember which, I took a smaller device so I could actually kind of hide it in my hand. And then she kind of was wondering because she noticed I didn't have the cigarette hanging from my finger, but she noticed all the vapor and kind of went into it with her a little bit. But I could tell right away she was not interested. She didn't have any desire to want to try it and know anything about it. So I kind of blew it off the conversation and just started talking about the machines and other things. But she was I sat there for 15 minutes next to her, and she had at least 4 cigarettes, and 2 of them were still smoking in the ashtray.
Well, that's kind of casino life because people are a little preoccupied with the machine in front of them, and they just kind of sit it down. But I would say, so to answer that question that was on the screen, I think the question was answered there, diggity D. Yes. As long as you do it in the appropriate areas. So I can't speak for what other future cruises will be like. All I can tell you is I've never had any conflict. There's plenty of vapors on the boat. Plenty. I mean, I saw a ton of vapors on the boat. So it wasn't like everyone was smoking. They normally have designated smoking areas on the deck or sometimes on the sides of the boat, on the port or starboard side. You can go out there and smoke in some areas. But I know for a couple years they removed smoking and vaping from the casino, and I was like, shit, I hope they didn't do that because it's windy up on that deck, and you get tired of me, especially me. I mean, my hair is like the whole time. So I always found respite down in the casino, and I was like, I hope to God that we can smoke and vape down in the casino because I really kind of like to hang out there. It's air conditioned. You can get your drinks down there. Do they allow vaping in the cabins? No. But you
pull the sheets up, you blow into the sheets.
No, just blow it to the ground. I mean, they honestly had no clue. I guarantee you, if they did have an idea, I'm sure I would have gotten a big fat cleaning bill for like $300 or $400. They had to fumigate the room or something. So no, I had no problems.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to go outside at night to smoke because a lot of people have a tendency to get seasick during the night hour when you can't see anything, the horizon, you can't see any, so they end up getting seasick, and then they end up coming back to their cabin and getting sick as a dog. And it's like but as far as those crews, check the website. When you're booking a cruise, all that information is there. So this is what today's show is going to be about. It's about just planning ahead, and you don't want, let's be honest, all our stuff is expensive, guys. It may not, it may not seem so much for one person to the other person, but you're holding close to $150 worth of stuff. And the last thing you want is to have your mod, your RDA, all your juice taken away from you at customs. So it's really important. That's what we're going to talk about today is just covering your bases.
Let's talk about this one, right?
Yeah.
Because here we are in 2023, and Aquanet Superhold from the 1980s is still destroying the ozone on cruise ships. So that's kind of funny. So Elena is someone who was on the cruise, and she was commenting that
big hair day then.
Yeah, well, no, a mutual friend was in her cabin and clearly using hairspray, and they sent security in because they thought she was smoking, and it turned out it was just hairspray. So
it's just aerosol.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what today's show is going to be about, guys. Just covering your bases, not having to end up getting into a country you didn't know that wasn't going to allow any of that stuff in there, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, is it's going into the garbage, or it's getting put in some customs guy's pocket. Pretty much. Let's be honest. I'm not saying all custom people are crooked, but it's free vape. It's free vape.
Yes.
Yamming me right now. There you go. Shut it off. Yeah. So that's what today's show is going to be about. Tim, why don't you say hello to everybody in the chat?
I will. 1 second when I'm done trying to multitask. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live Show. I'm back in the house. Not that I'm the most important person on the staff, but
we missed them. We missed them.
Yes. So let's say hi to all the lovely people. Tom Morowitz first in the chat tonight.
Yeah.
You score some extra brownie points. I think
an hour early, Tim. An hour.
Was the only one there talking to himself for an hour before we got. I guarantee you, Mallory and Pam were in there early too. I'm just shocked to not see Mallory at the top of the chat, but I'm pretty sure they had an arrangement. They probably trade off now.
They're getting used to the time change.
Yeah, this week you're first. Next week I'm first. So on and so forth. Pam Spraggins, great to see you. Mallory Gates. Mallory was second. Mallory came in. Photo finish, folks. We're gonna go to the tape. We'll skip over that sample box troll. Curtis Clemens, good to see you, sir. How have you been? Who else? Well, we got to have like the Red Ferns, and we got Diggity D in the house. In the house. I want to answer your question about the SaltNet question. I think that's an important one. You're looking to try to transition to a free base, so I think we can find some time to discuss that. I did not ignore that question. I did see it. Apathy Miller, good to see you. How are you? I think, and Elena, great to see you. Thanks for coming to the show and sharing your hairspray story with us.
It brought back a lot of
vaping and hairspray go hand in hand, John.
So. Yeah. Well, it actually is safer. Really, to be honest, I mean, being a child of the '80s, how many times did you use a hairspray can and a lighter together?
Did that, and used the hairspray as well. I had a routine, and I made it a little bit bigger. And wind and rain were my enemies. So,
God,
that's how it works.
And every guy that had a girlfriend in the '80s either got their eye poked out or a scar on their face from trying to kiss their girlfriend with the sharp hair.
Everybody had big pokey hair. So real quick though, Diggity D, if you're still in the chat, I did post you a response real quick. Go ahead and chime in on what Nick's strength you're using. Is it 24, 36, 50? Like, let us know what strength you're vaping, and maybe we can come up with a solution to help you transition to a free base.
Yeah,
and before, chat, feel free to pipe in and help a brother out.
Yeah, help them out if you guys have the answer to a question. Anytime you guys see a question in the chat and you have an answer for it, sometimes we miss them because we're kind of paying attention a little bit to ourselves. But tonight, just Tim and me, we should be able to keep track of the chat there. But let's talk about a little bit of news that I just saw today, and it's a little bit about the tobacco-free kids. I don't know if this was one of your articles or not, Tim. If it was, I apologize. But Matthew Myers will be stepping down as the president of the organization, with how do you say her name? Yolanda Richardson's executive vice president, stepping in to fill in the role. The leadership transition will occur July 1st. I couldn't find nothing on this lady. I was like, okay, this lady's is jumping in as the president of this organization that is just kicking our ass and it has funding up the ass. And I literally couldn't find anything on her
Yeah.
except for what Tobacco Free Kids wrote about her in their little what about Yolanda Richardson's. Here, let me try to pull it up here. Present. I got to get used to that word.
Present?
Yeah. I'm so used to share. Now it says present.
Well, she has a background. So what's her background?
Yeah. She is well, she's been with the agency or the group or whatever you want to call it, the Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids, since 2009. She is the global health advocate, working in over 60 countries. She has led efforts to support civil service. Silver, I can't even see it.
Led efforts to support civil society organizations and governments in developing and implementing effective tobacco control policies that are considered with international best practices. A recognized expert on gender and international development. What the hell is that mean?
That one got me too. I was like,
global
okay.
health, philanthropy, and corporate social responsibility. Well, I don't know. Titles, I think for some people believe they're everything. It sounds to me like she just played Scrabble and came up with a bunch of titles. Now, I think it's safe to assume that whomever this lady is, being that she's been in the organization since 2009, her messaging is effectively set. I don't expect her to be any different than the current campaign leader. And
that's what I tried to find, to see if I could find anything that she has written that's out there, or any campaigns outside of Tobacco Free Kids that she was involved in. I couldn't find anything on her. Basically, this is all I can find. And her LinkedIn page. That was it. I couldn't
LinkedIn
find
page.
Yeah, that was it. I couldn't find anything that, where she was at this protest, was she at that protest, did she fight for this policy or that policy. I couldn't find anything on her. So otherwise, maybe she just kind of sat in the background, because what's his name, who is walking away, Matthews, he's been there for a long time. And it makes, I mean, he's been, how long has he have been there? Let's see.
1996.
Yeah, he's been there since the beginning, because if I remember correctly, that's when that organization was created. I just kind of wonder, because this is a big group. This is pretty much the group that has a ton of funding coming from all sorts of groups. I mean, where was the totals here? I saw the totals earlier today. Well, we know that Bloomberg has given them. Where is their numbers? It was right here. Boop 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 boop.
Bloomberg initiative to reduce tobacco usage. I don't see a number.
Yeah, I think it was close to $45 million. So these guys have money. They've been involved in a lot of things that, let's be honest, Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids is kind of a what's that saying? What is that thing with the thumb, Tim? What is that? Sore thumb? I don't know what it is. You know what saying?
Well, they are a sore thumb on the fight for vaping, but I think ultimately, I don't think it changes anything. I think that these organizations have a singular mission, all under the guise of tobacco control. But as we all know, vaping really isn't a tobacco product. I mean, outside of where the nicotine is sourced from. So, ultimately, there's no reason for her to get off of the messaging path. And something tells me that Myers will probably have his nose in their business anyway and be a consultant.
Yeah, they said he's going to kind of stick around a little bit and help her out. So he's going to still be a big part of what takes place here. Who knows for how much longer before he steps away. But it was just odd not being able to find anything that she is, just like she just got a paycheck. You know what I mean? She got a paycheck for just being there.
Right. Well, now she becomes effectively a devil on the government's shoulder, and she'll get the platform to go ahead and meet with all of these legislators to go ahead and propagate the same message and push them in a direction to make them think that this whole thing is just a travesty and we're all going to die of pneumonia and be on ventilators and all that. And it's just really unfortunate because these specific organizations have no centralized
Mhm.
focus other than to approach it from, we got to do this for the kids. We got to do this for the kids. We got to prevent future generations from being smokers and addicted to nicotine and tobacco and the
Yeah.
whole nine yards. And so they completely discard the idea that adults are a part of this.
Yeah.
And it would not shock me that, that even in the offices of Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids, you probably got people stepping out to the sidewalk for their break and grabbing a vape and stuff like that. So I can't believe that they're completely ignorant, but that's what makes it so hard on our
Yeah.
push to try to save vaping is that, they don't want to even consider the adult side of this argument. It's really about the kids. And then
Yeah.
that's what sets the stage for the federal government to kind of frown on us.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I was kind of wishful thinking that maybe, but then again, I thought about it. They're not going to put someone in that position that may have a different opinion or idea of what their agenda has been for since 1996. And I mean, it's a good agenda. I mean, kids shouldn't be smoking. I get that part. But like we have always talked about, how about us? How about us? If this is working for us, how about considering us as, so an importance that we need this product to make sure we continue to stay away from cigarettes. And so I just kind of you know how I am. I just kind of hoping maybe she had some sort of different agenda. So I kind of wanted to get a general idea where she stood. And I'm probably gonna assume that she's pretty much gonna, what's that saying, pro quo, just kind of
The
follow the
status quo.
status quo of what was going, what has been taking place since with Matthews there. So that's too bad.
Well, just another person that will be able to get on Twitter and harp at when she puts out her bullshit.
We will find out July 1st. She takes over the position on July 1st. She will become the new president. President Timmy.
That's
She's
true.
going to be the president. Oh, I
Well,
wish.
anyway,
I would want to say I wish you luck, but I don't.
yeah, no, I mean, that's why these organizations are put out into the forefront anyway. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
basically supposed to be a lobbying arm for the government to try to help them drive their policy and
Yep.
and pass bills that don't benefit the greater good of everyone. And they purposely misunderstand the conceptual idea of vaping. And so, I don't expect anybody to have a premonition or an epiphany and be like, well, maybe if we just can regulate it and keep it away from kids, but let the adults have it, maybe that would be a great approach. She's not going to argue that at all. And that's pretty much where I get stuck on Twitter a lot of the times when you talk to these ants, is because they have a singular driven agenda and they don't care about your opinion, because their argument is the kids. They don't. Your problem is your problem. My problem is my problem. I'm sorry if my problem affects you.
Fuck you. Well, let's hope for the best. Maybe she'll listen. She'll just take a second to listen to the adults and come up with a solution, an idea, so anything that works for both parties. None of us want kids. None of us want kids vaping. Let's be honest, we don't. But taking away something that's working for millions and millions of people without even looking into it is just kind of ridiculous. So,
well, maybe, just maybe, they can go on. See, because I always ask myself this question, right? I mean, I ask myself similar questions. I won't get into those, but I have to. I have to wonder about the idea of like, what's next for these groups if they could be 1000% successful at doing what they set out to do, right? So get kids away from smoking, get them away from vaping, get them away from nic addiction and the trappings of being a kid and experimenting and all that. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, they're successful. Then what do these people do next?
Yeah.
Like, is there anything left? I feel like their entire life's effort is now just complete. Like, what are you gonna do? Retire on an island with a fizzy drink and that's your legacy at that point. But maybe just maybe they continue forward with their messaging campaigns and they still do the things they do, but then everybody realizes that this has gotten too big to effectively control. I mean, what's to say that in America, it's just gotten to the point where they don't have enough enforcement to stop it. They don't have enough people to keep it out of the hands of people. But I think not Pam, but Mallory kind of echoed it. She kind of jokingly said, they should be the campaign for parent-free kids. And while I think that is a great standard argument for us to have, because you would think that, if parenting was at the forefront of a lot of this and kids actually had respect for authority and their parents, that maybe some of that alone could stop some of the rampant use and things that they like to kind of quantify as an epidemic. But at the same time, I think there's a reality in all this, and that is that it doesn't really matter how great of a parent you are. I mean, I have great parents. Don't get me wrong. Didn't stop me from.
You're gonna fuck up.
I went out and smoked still. You know what I mean? And of course, I hid it from them and didn't try to let myself get exposed. But I mean, with cigarettes, that's a little bit harder to do. So I think it'll propagate. That will be a perpetual thing in time. I mean, imagine ourselves 20 years from now. John and I will be in our lazy boys, not even able to get up. We'll probably have at home care and stuff like that. But, imagine what kids are going to be having their hands on in 20 years. Imagine what kids will be exposed to.
What's going to be out there. Yeah. What could be out there? I mean, we kind of, we joking a few years back, just the Tide Pod thing. And this is coming from two guys that grew up as teenagers in the 80s. Yeah, there was a lot of stupid shit out there. And I'm sure some of the stuff we did, our parents looked at it as like, what the fuck, really? And kind of the same way I did when I saw kids eating Tide Pods. I was just like, Tide Pods. I was like, really? I mean, there's so many other things out there that can get you high. I mean, that's not going to kill you, and to me, like I said, I had that conversation with my kids. As a smoker, I did not smoke around my kids. I did smoke in a car with my kids. I always smoked outside. I never smoked in my house, but yet two of my three kids end up being smokers. Was it something that I did? I honestly, to this day, believe that no. I always told my kids, they were always the ones that were telling me I need to quit, all the way up until the point they started. With rubber band tricks. Put a rubber band on your wrist, Dad, and every time you want a cigarette, snap it. Okay, I'll try it. Went 24 hours doing that, black and blue wrist.
Yeah,
but going through that process with two of them and going through it, and explaining to them that, this is something I wish I could quit. It's very difficult. It's very bad for Dad. I know if I don't quit, I'm going to die at a very young age. And I've gone through all that. And I didn't have that with my parents, because my parents grew up in a generation where there was an ashtray in every fucking room. Yeah. There literally an ashtray in every friggin' room. So, and there wasn't this guy can smoke in the house, this guy can't. So no, you came in, you lit up. And that's the way it was in Philadelphia. And it was kind of somewhat a little bit different here in California and Modesto. My dad kind of put his foot down. It's like, hey, you're not fucking smoking in my house. You want to smoke. Even his brother came and visit from Buffalo, was a heavy smoker at the time. He told his own brother, please go outside. I don't want my couch, my furniture, my curtains, everything to smell like cigarettes. So, going through that whole process with my kids and explaining them how bad this is and how Dad wishes he could stop and how it's controlling my life. Yet two of them smoked, and both of them now are vaping, thank God. But, even with me doing, like I said, doing everything I could to kind of explain to them how bad this is, they still chose to smoke. So, I mean, teenagers are going to, I'm not going to say kids, teenagers are going to do what teenagers want to do. And that's just, doesn't matter if you're a child from the 60s, a teen from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s or 90s, whatever was the end thing to do, that's what you did. And it's kind of funny now that I think about it, Tim, but that's kind of like been the end thing since like the 50s, smoking, huh? If you think about it, until currently.
Well, I do think that, in general, the United States at large and the social culture is that,
Uh,
there it seems to be, while we're still kind of like ravished with like all the unhealthiness of food, like you can't go to any restaurant anymore
yeah,
and they don't try to like basically put an apple in your mouth at the end of the meal and make you look like you're
yeah,
going to end up on a spit and be a pig. But I do think that there is a general shift in people to try to move to a more healthy
yeah,
lifestyle, and I think that that's fantastic. But you say, well, smoking was kind of a thing since the 50s. Well,
yeah,
back then it was kind of promoted as like a
yeah,
thing to
yeah.
relax you, and it was socially acceptable to kind of have that in public. During those times, we really weren't in a space where people were aware that it had so many harms down the road.
Right,
So,
right.
so over time, as people started to realize that it did have detrimental effects, I think that just naturally people are like, "Oh, I don't want to die. I'm going to walk away from that." But I would
Yeah,
share a story about, do I feel like my parents had any effect on whether or not I can eventually became a smoker? Now, I was aware that my dad had smoked at some point in his life. Now, my grandmother, his mother,
mhm.
uh, uh hey, what's up, Rog? And Addie Tooney, good to see you.
Yeah, Addie.
I'm sorry, I see names pop up and everybody catches it. So, just know that like vicariously I've said hello to you.
We
Um,
see you. We see you.
exactly. What's that? But
Come on, do
so
it again. Do it again.
ooh,
80s version.
that was like
80s
when
version.
like, yeah, the guy picking the phone and me like, what's that? At any rate, so I was aware that my dad was a smoker at some point. His mother,
Yeah,
my grandmother, was a smoker all the way up until she died. Okay.
yeah,
And ironically, she did not die of lung cancer or from smoking. She actually died from a broken hip. So
yeah,
and which was unfortunate. Sad
yeah,
to know that that can take somebody away from you. So let's
yeah.
ban broken hips. So with
I
that
have
said,
I have fallen. I can't get up,
Yeah,
Tim.
exactly. Yeah, no, well, it's too bad you're gone now. They still allow broken hips in this world, so you did it to yourself.
Where's the broken hip
Uh,
campaign?
campaign for broken free hips. Is that
Free
right?
up. Yeah.
Um, at any rate,
Titanium hip.
yeah,
Campaign for free
well, I'm sure
titanium hip.
there's a few of us out there, or a few of them out there that are in titanium. Anyway, long story short, but I never saw my dad smoke. The only time I ever saw my dad have a cigarette in his hand or put it in his mouth was when we were at the beach for a family trip and we were lighting off
Mhm.
firecrackers at the beach, and he borrowed a cigarette from somebody to keep it hot so he could light the fireworks. Okay, but he
Yep.
didn't. I never saw him once smoke a cigarette. However, and this is the dichotomy in how people think about things, and call it harm reduction if you will. It depends on how you look at it. But my dad was an avid pipe smoker for a very long time growing up as a kid, and he always had his cherry tobacco and
Yep.
his little pipe, and he would sit in the chair and read his book or watch the news and puff on his pipe and all that stuff. And so I have to question, was that like a symbol or a gateway for me to want to try smoking? Because let's be
Yeah.
realistic. I mean, pipes were not just something that 14-year-olds carried around. I
Right.
mean, that whole process is a little cumbersome. You got to have a pouch of tobacco, you got to pack it in, and then you got to walk around with this thing, and that
Yeah.
whole nine. So, I didn't expect to see pipes in the hands of my friends. And I was like your kids in the sense
Yeah.
that I was very adamant that I was never going to smoke. Uh,
Right.
Now, did I chastise my dad or encourage my dad to quit pipe smoking? No. Um, I think somewhere along the line, I kind of understood he wasn't inhaling it. It was more of a
Right.
mouth draw, and he just kind of blew it out, more like a cigar and stuff like that. But I do go back to that, and I question, well, teen angst plus being exposed to someone smoking in the house. I mean, it's pipe smoking. So, I mean, there was
Yeah.
a smell of tobacco and that residual around the house all the time. I was used to it being there.
Yeah.
So, teen angst, I was pissed off at my mom and dad, went on a walk, ran into my buddy. He had a pack of Marlboros, and the rest is history. So I
Yeah.
do have to question. I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? Do you think that if someone in your house smoked any type of method, do you think that that was a catalyst for you making a decision to finally try it? Or was it just, you just wanted to fucking
Pressure.
try it? Like, yeah, my buddies are,
Uh,
I want to see what it's all about.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, okay, everybody knows my story. Yes, I stole my first cigarette from a priest, but after that point, I kind of stopped smoking, and it wasn't until I was in the back seat of the car. We're cruising up and down McHenry on a Friday night. I'm sitting in the back seat. My brother and my cousin are in the front seat, and they're both smoking. Well, guess where the smoke is going? We're cruising down the street. The smoke is just coming back, and I'm sitting in the
Yeah.
middle. I'm just getting hammered from both sides. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Give me a cigarette.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was game on. I just continued smoking from that point on. I didn't have a lot of people. I don't want to say I don't want to say I was pressured
Yeah.
to smoke. I didn't feel like my brother was like, hey, and my cousin were like, hey, dude, we're smoking. You need to smoke. I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way with my friends in high school, and back then, as you know, Tim, we got the smoke. We got the smoke on campus. So I didn't feel like I was more, as an athlete, I was more embarrassed being at the bike rack, having a cigarette before school and before football practice and baseball practice. I felt kind of ashamed being over there. But then I was just like, all right, I need to take care of this before I go to baseball practice or before I go to football practice, because otherwise I'm going to be, I can already tell I was going to be an asshole, even knowing that I didn't even really understand how that nicotine worked for me as a teenager. I didn't realize that it can. Did you feel like, as a teenager, did you notice that nicotine kind of controlled your attitude in somewhat?
Well, I was going to ask you a similar question.
Yeah.
So I was sort of, I never really smoked during breaks at school. I never snuck out and went on the ramp with what we called the grits. The grits were
Yeah.
the kids that wore all denim, the denim jeans, a denim jacket, and had a Leonard Skinner patch somewhere on
Yeah.
there, or Molly Hatchet or something like that. I never took part in that component of it. Most of the time I was doing it, it would be a little bit more clandestine. We would go to the mall, or we would go take a ride in somebody's car, or we would, do it somewhere where we weren't in the full view of our own parents. Do I feel like it affected my attitude? Would that be coming from nicotine or anything like that? I don't believe that necessarily
Yeah.
impacted my
Yeah.
attitude. I think it was just my rebelliousness at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm 16 and I know the fucking world better
Oh,
than you 30
yeah.
something year old parent.
Yeah, I mean, and then you're into. I mean, let's be honest. You're a teenager, so you're all over the fucking place. What is it? Your testosterone is like fucking. You're a teenager.
Well, yeah, I mean, every kid
Yeah,
at some point
yeah.
feels a little bulletproof, and you
Right,
can't tell me
right.
what to do, and you're influenced by your friends. I was heavily influenced by a lot of my friends who were in broken families at that time, which was not as common as maybe it is today. But they got to run around and do what they wanted and be out as late as they wanted and get away with freaking
Rebellious. Yeah.
murder. And I was the one who was like, "Oh, you have to be home by 9," and I was
Lights
breaking
on.
rules, and I
Yeah,
was being more closely monitored out of
yeah,
care and concern. But to me, that felt like you were kind of like, boxing me in, and you need to let me grow up and make some bad decisions. So,
yeah.
but I don't feel like nicotine affected me or smoking in general affected me from an attitude perspective. But I was going to ask you the question, and chat, you can chime in too. So you tried the cigarette for the first time, okay, and then like both you and I said, we continued to smoke after. The rest was history, right? We went on
Right.
to continue to smoke. Do you feel like when you smoked that very first time that that was maybe not noticeable to you, but that was when the addiction grabbed you? Or do you think that you were just, for a little while, you were just continuing to kind of rebel and do what your friends were doing, and you didn't really see it as a like yeah, I'll just, I'm just doing it because I'm with my friends. I quit tomorrow or
Uh,
whatever. I'm curious to know, at what point
I'll be
the
honest. It was chasing that high. That first initial high was
yeah.
kind of a weird thing for me, and being someone that at that point in time, I didn't do drugs. I didn't smoke marijuana at that point. I didn't do any of that stuff. So that the initial feeling that I got from that first cigarette, it was kind of I don't know how an euphoria, is that a good proper word
A
for it? It was
euphoria? You had a
yeah,
euphoric experience from your
yeah,
nicotine?
yeah, yeah. It was just I didn't I don't compare it to like I was when I was first high, but I just felt I just had that initial urge, that buzz, that feeling of excitement, and for a long period of time, as we all know, that feeling kind of goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I
but
think at this point we just kind of maintain and we see it as sort of like a panacea for our stress.
yeah,
I'm sure there is some addictive element to it in terms of I mean, they say it in bold fucking letters.
yeah,
Nicotine is an addictive substance. And so I do agree that there's some addictive
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
uh, elements to it, but I don't feel like at this stage, I mean, most of the time I'm on 3 and 6. I mean, this happens to be 24 because it's a pod device and I'm on a MTL.
yeah,
So, but I'm not really consuming nearly as much if I was doing the 3 and the 6 as frequently.
yeah,
But I don't like when I vape now, like, let's just use a scenario. Let's say first thing in the morning, you wake up, and the first thing that we did as smokers is grab a cigarette and a cup of coffee, had to have your cigarette before the day got started. I kind of do the same thing with my vape now, but I don't feel like it jacked me up and got me going and all that. I think it's more
yeah.
of this sort of like, okay, I got, here's my routine to get the day started kind of thing.
Yeah, I for me it was that buzz. I think maybe a year into it, I realized. Yeah, I want to say about a year into it, I kind of realized that it did help me in some way to relieve some of the stress that I was going through that during the day. I
Yeah.
noticed if I did go out at lunch and have that cigarette before I went back to class, I did feel like I was a little bit of a better student at that time. I'm kind of curious with Rogue's answer here.
What,
I mean, because you smoked
Mary Jane, he
marijuana,
was
yeah,
doing
Mary
weed.
Jane before you smoked. I mean, did you feel the same way I did? I mean, was that first initial buzz equal to what you felt? Smoking that first joint and doing that. Well, I won't say speed because speed's a whole different ball game. But did you feel like it kind of mimicked the feeling that you got from smoking marijuana for the first time? Because that's how like later on when I did smoke for the first time, I kind of put those two together. That first initial buzz that I got kind of felt like that buzz that I was getting from marijuana for the first time. So I'm kind of wondering if someone that did all that other stuff first and then started smoking, did you feel that was that same sort of effect? I'm
I
kind of
think it would be
curious.
more of a gap filler, if anything. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone knows what it's like to be on a plane for 6 hours and you get off the plane and you go out for that first cigarette and you get that massive head rush off that first drag of your cigarette. I think, yeah, I
uh,
understand you, John, from like, first thing in the morning, or it was noticeable the buzz you got from
uh,
a cigarette. Now, continuing on throughout the day, I didn't feel like it re-energized me the same way that it did at like unique times, like large gaps when I couldn't smoke, or that first one in the morning, when you can feel your heart
uh,
rate kind of go up and all that other stuff. Um,
yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, so he says first cig did have a little
Uh,
light. He had him lightheaded, but for me, it wasn't that same type of course not, especially
yeah.
marijuana, because you're
Yeah.
Chinese eyed on the couch wanting a bag of
Were you were
Doritos.
you were you an athlete though? That's what I'm kind of curious because I was. So I did run, I did baseball, I did football, played basketball. I don't know. It just to me that I felt I could tell I was putting a toxin in my body, even though I knew it wasn't a big deal back then. Let's be honest. Like everybody, you did whatever you had to do back then, but
Mm.
I could feel like I put something in my body that wasn't right, and even that initial feeling kind of drew me in to continue to keep smoking because I felt like I said, a year down the road, I felt like okay, this is kind of helping me be a little bit more calmer and throughout my day at school to the point where I didn't feel like I was going to punch somebody in the face. You know what I mean?
Yep.
especially
So
after football practice.
Andy Lamb, you can use
Yeah.
vapes in the country except in places where smoking is banned.
Yeah, let's
That's a
get to
trick
that.
question. That's a trick
Yeah,
answer. Does that
yeah,
mean the whole country? No, it sounds to me
yeah,
that says which includes most public places and transport, so take
right,
care. So you just have to be mindful. They will allow you to vape in the country. You just have to pay attention to where you're allowed to smoke at the
right.
time and you can vape. But if it's, in a building or,
Yeah,
whatever, I'm sure it's basic same standard shit.
yeah. My friend was just there a couple months ago, and he told me he talked about it, and basically everyone is told when they go to Jamaica to stay on the resort. Everything outside of the resort is kind of iffy. So, but he said on the resort area where he was at, I can't remember the name of it right now, but he said he was basically allowed to vape and smoke all over the place. But they stress the fact, he doesn't know exactly what the rules were once you left the resort area. But yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to start with
Yep.
India. India, under the Tobacco Control Advisement and Sales Act, any person who is convicted of selling, offering, or sales, possession of sales, importing, or distributing e-vaporizers is liable for a fine to exceed $10,000 or imprisonment for 6 months, Tim. 6 months, Tim.
Well,
Oh,
that to me, that's just in other countries are like that. I mean,
yeah,
they put laws out there like that where they will throw you in the clink for a
yeah,
significant amount of time just to try to deter it. I mean, you can look at other countries that do crazy things by law, like shoplifters and things like that. I
yeah,
mean, they cut hands off and stuff. So my point is that this sounds like something that is put out there as sort of like a carrot, like, hey, you're not supposed to do it, and if you're caught doing it, then you're going to sit in the clink for 6. Yeah, Andy, I'm going to paste some stuff in the chat for you, bud. I'm just looking some
yeah.
things up. So
Yeah,
while I can't really comment,
and keep in mind that applies to tourist people. So this is something I don't know how many people are actually going to fly to India at any time here, but you need to consider that when you're going to India. And again, that is the first offense. The first offense to a fine, and it could exceed to 20,000 or imprisonment for 12 months for both for second and any an offense after
so
the second.
are they is that 20,000 in rupees or whatever?
American US dollars, US. They
Wow.
broke it down to US. Yeah,
So an individual
yeah,
who's caught with a vape can
yeah.
be fined up to 20,000 US dollars and 6 months in prison. First
Yeah.
offense.
No, first offense is 10,000. Second will get you 20,000.
Okay, so that right there, I mean, that explicit deterrence at 10,000, like who the frick has $10,000 just kind of
And you're
laying
just
around?
visiting. You're just visiting. That's why we're talking about this today. Like I said, it's summertime. A lot of us are traveling. It's just really important, you guys, to you know where you're going. So take 5 minutes to read what the airport says. What can you take on an airplane? What can you not take on an airplane? Where are you going? If you're going to Mexico, it's important that you pay attention to what the rules or regulations are in Mexico. Whether you're going to South America or India or Alaska, wherever you're going, it's really important right now, guys, because vaping has become this issue that is not just a United States issue, as we all know. It's a world issue, and there are some countries that are not fucking messing around.
Yeah.
They're not messing around,
Look at Russia.
and yeah, and if you think you're the next Brittany Griner, where the U.S. government's going to come get you and take you back out, that's not happening, right, Tim?
Yeah, hers was a little bit more uniquely different. I mean, hers was, in their world, a class, A substance, bad shit.
Bad shit.
Right. But I would say, yeah, to the whole Jamaica thing, it looks like you can get in with most things other than
Yep.
disposables and stuff that has
Yep.
batteries already in it. So Andy, maybe take your bigger vape mod with you, and your battery
Yep.
charger and stuff like that.
Yep.
But he's right, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the more than likely, yes, they would want you to and expect you to pay attention to their law as you're trying to enter the country. Now, when it comes to vaping, unless it's like explicitly banned by a country like India and stuff like that, I imagine they have thousands of people that try to pass through customs with their vape, not understanding that every country sees it differently or treats it differently. My guess is that, in most of those cases, they aren't going to just grab you at customs and take you down and charge you 10 grand and throw you in the jail for 6 months. They're probably going to say, were you aware that this is illegal in our country and you're not supposed to bring it in? And then you just play with puppy dog and go, no, I didn't know. And they'll take it from you. Most of the time, customs will just confiscate it and move on with their lives. So don't, if you're worried about losing that $300 mod that you're bringing in, that mech mod that you bought back in, 2011 when mech mods cost $250, you might want to think twice and really kind of, be concerned. Cause I used to travel to Dubai and now I think Dubai has kind of changed their laws since I went in, this was, several years ago. And I did not know that, I did find out that vaping was banned. So I had to make some poor choices and go back to cigarettes for those trips because I wasn't about to lose my shit going into that country. But then you get into the country and you're hanging out at the hotels and
everybody's
stuff,
vaping
and people are vaping at the hotels and stuff. So, and no one was, arresting them and throwing them in cars and stuff like that. Like pretty much people were doing what they wanted to do. So you just got to pay attention.
Tim makes a really good point there, but also keep in mind that you are in a foreign country and there is, believe it or not, other countries are corrupt. So also the people working customs are corrupt. So there's a possibility that, yes, like Tim says, they may say, oh, we're sorry, you're ignorant to the law, but here's your stuff back. But there also may be that custom guy that says, do you want your stuff back? It's going to cost you $100. They're always that guy. So
Dubai would be a perfect place for that.
Yeah, exactly. Mexico is another place that is Thailand. We're going to talk about Thailand. That seems to be the problem in Thailand. The minister or prime minister of Thailand has given up. He has said, fuck it. And the reason he had to say fuck it was because it wasn't the people that were, the people were already breaking the law. The problem was it was the actual law enforcement. It was the police officers going after tourists and finding tourists, blackmailing them to get their stuff back. So what they were doing is saying, we could arrest you, put you in jail, fine you 30,000 BATHS, whatever that is, which comes out to $910 US, or you're going to go to jail, or you pay us a couple $100 and we'll give you your stuff back and you can go on your way. And I guess that's what was going on in Thailand. I could see that in Thailand, right, Tim?
Yeah, well, I mean, but that reminds me a lot of Mexico and the federales, and and they pull people over on some deserted road and shit, and you're scared for your life while they're holding a fully automatic weapon, and then you give them 150 pesos, and and they friggin' go on their way, and so these governments like that, they are severely corrupt, and so these people give the guards in Thailand some money and they'll probably give them their shit back. But to Andy's point, what I would think, if it's a pre-filled thing like this, Andy, I don't even think customs would know what that is if you just had it in your bag. It doesn't really look like a disposable. So I think you might be, as long as you can separate the two and make it look like a totally
just
different
put it with your razor kit. Just put it with your razor
for all they
kit.
know, it's one of those little mini, Norelco razors and shit. They don't know. They kind of probably know what disposables look like. They probably have they have a very sort of like generic design to a lot of them. So I'd be more concerned about the self-contained, pre-filled disposables. Those are the ones they kind of harp on in that commentary. But in Thailand, I can see that. So basically, he's reversed.
He's given up. It's still banned.
It's still banned. Yeah,
it's still banned. But there will no longer be any fines or penalties for having a vape device in Thailand, and it was all due because of the corruption through the police department. Which, when I read that, I just started laughing because it brought me back to I'm not going to name the vape shop, but walking into the vape shop and asking them, "Are you worried about the police coming in here and shutting you down?" And he just laughed because he said, "They're a customer. They're a customer." Now, I'm not saying that Modesto police are corrupt and they're not going to do anything about it, that they have flavored e-liquid here. But to that police officer, to him, that is a very petty crime
Yeah.
compared to what he needs to be focusing on that's out there. And I think that's one of the things that not just here in the United States, but I think worldwide, a lot of not just our police officers, but police officers in Thailand, Brazil, and other places. Yeah, some are going to take advantage of these types of laws and pocket some profit while they're doing their jobs, and there's going to be a few of them that are just going to kind of say, you know what, this is fucking stupid. I should be busting this guy that's selling crack on the sidewalk and not worried about this guy because he has a strawberry e-liquid, for his vape device. So, but yeah, I guess Thailand, that's a serious fine. I mean, it was $910 US money, a jail sentence. Wow. Never mind. I take it all back. A jail sentence of up to 5 years. But not smoking e-cigarettes or vaping is illegal in Thailand. The crime will no longer carry any fines or penalties following recent news of a police extortion of tourists. And it was the tourists. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Thailand, I don't know, Tim. Is Thailand a place that a lot of people visit? I
Yeah,
guess, yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So
I mean,
you
I
don't
see
want
people
to,
pictures of it, and people saying it's a beautiful country and amazing, and the people are
yeah,
awesome, and all that other stuff. So certainly, I mean, but every country has its
yeah,
good areas and its bad
yeah,
areas.
yeah, yeah,
Every country,
yeah.
like you can go to Brazil and be like wowed by, you know,
Uh,
down, down, where was the area? If Elena
Rio de Janeiro.
well, it's in Rio, but there's a
Yeah,
specific area. So there's upscale areas, and then there's the shanties that are up in the mountain, up in the hills on the hillside,
yeah,
and that's a place you don't want to go. So,
yeah,
but you go to like Thailand, I'm sure there's plenty of beautiful places to see and visit, and then there's
yeah.
probably some pretty shitty neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's like going from California to Detroit. I'm just kidding. Anybody that's from Detroit, just kidding.
Well, there went all of our Detroit viewership right there.
We just lost them, Tim.
Yeah.
Speaking of Brazil, e-cigarettes have been banned in Brazil since 2009, but they can eat. This is completely hilarious.
Yeah.
It says they've been banned since 2009, but can be easily bought in supermarkets online. The list of businesses that in the include supermarkets, giant Carrefour. I can't remember. Carrefour is the name of the stores, which owns 1,000 stores across Brazil's account for 25% of the retail market. So they've gotten to the point where they have given up, and what they're doing now is in Brazil, it's there are no fines for the actual customer any longer now. What they're doing is they're actually now going after the stores.
Yeah.
So what they're doing now is they're finding daily fines, which are about $5,000, which is approximately $1,000 per day for them breaking the law. So for every day that they have a vape product in their store, they're going to fine them $1,000. And I kind of laughed at that number because, well, for one, I mean, I don't know what they're selling daily, but I'm figuring if they're 25% of the market, they got 1,000 stores. That's a pretty good. I think they can afford $1,000 a day.
Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't. Like even if they find it behind the counter, I bet you there's a shit ton of like little hole in the wall places in Brazil where if you went in and you say the right code word, the dude's got
Yeah,
cases of disposables under the counter somewhere. Now I
yeah,
don't know exactly how heavy-handed the law is in certain countries. I'm sure in some countries, they just kind of do a scan and look around, make sure nothing looks funny. But there's probably some places where the law comes in and turns your shit upside down, looking for anything and everything. So I don't know.
Quick question for you: when
Mm.
you were boarding the cruise liner, were you asked about
No,
vape
no,
equipment?
I don't get asked when I get on any plane. I pretty
Okay.
much only travel with my pod devices. And you know what? The airlines have gotten to the point now, and then this is not to leave anybody a sense of of security on this, but like now they've got these new scanners and shit where they're like, don't take anything out of your bag anymore. Like I would put all my liquids, I only take like 30 ml bottles with me when I travel. I put them in a clear plastic bag and we'll put them in the tub.
Yeah.
Like I was on my way back from Virginia here on Monday evening. And I left that shit in the bag. They didn't say nothing. Normally I just take my pods. Like when I walk in the airport, I'll just throw the whole thing in the tub. They don't say anything. And then on the cruise ship,
you carry it on, so you actually have that in your pocket when you get.
I had a jacket on. I had this one in my right pocket, and I had my Argus Air in my left pocket. And when you have to empty your fucking pockets,
you throw everything.
I just threw them in the tub along with my cell phone and my shoes and my glasses and all that. Never once did they stop and slow my scan because what the fuck is that? Getting on the boat, we did have to go through a security checkpoint, and to be quite honest with you, I was far more worried about the bottle of wine that I was bringing on the boat than I was about the vape stuff. But no, getting on the boat, they never once because they put your bag through a scanner and everything, and yes, the wine was legal. The cruise line said each person in the cabin was allowed to bring one 750 ml bottle.
Yeah, one.
So I did bring it, but I was more nervous about it being broken or something like that. Yeah. But no, they never, not one question, not one raised eyebrow. Maybe they might. I remember a long time ago when I used to travel, that was back when I had a lot of my clone mechs and stuff. I would travel with those. And they would see the batteries and stuff and the thing that kind of looks like a pipe bomb, in my bag. And they would maybe stop and ask, and they're like, what's in this bag? And I would take it out and I go, well, it's a vaporizer and these are batteries. And this is, and they're like, oh, okay. And they just kind of usher you on down the road. They just, the scanners can't specifically tell what it is. So they just want its relativity.
And Steve is correct, guys. That's a big no-no, guys. So, if you do want to if you're going someplace that you can have your vape equipment and your devices and your liquid, it's a very good idea to make sure, like we talked about, you can actually find all that information on their websites. If you can't, call them, but find out what you can take on as a carry-on and what you got to put in the bag that you have to check in.
Best place to go if you're traveling out of the country is go to that country's English version of the page. Go to their customs website so that you can understand all of the things. Because most countries don't let you bring fruits or meats or any kind of spices and things like that in because they just don't want it tainting their food chain. And in there, you'll find out how many cigarettes you're allowed to bring in or take out and can you bring vaping stuff in with you? Now, I would say, it looks to me like in most of these countries, if you have connections when you get there, you can probably find what you want when you get on the ground. Looks to me like in Jamaica, they allow it. So I bet you there's corner stores and convenience places that probably have disposables and shit you can buy. So you can probably get your vape while you're in Jamaica.
Right. And keep in mind what the airline will allow you to bring on doesn't mean that's what the country you're going to is going to allow. So just keep that in mind as well, because I've had friends that ran into that problem. They're like, well, I got on this flight and I'm allowed to take this and this, but when I got there, they took my shit. Well, you should have checked where you were going because, what the airline allows is going to be a lot different than what the country that you're going to is going to allow. So it's really important to check both. Check what you can bring on the plane. I know a lot of us, I'm the same way, and I'm sure Tim is the same way. A lot of the important stuff we want to take in, we carry on. And that's just, for me, anytime I fly, all my camera gear goes with me. I do not put my camera gear in a bag that I have to check in because I figure there's $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 worth of camera gear in that bag. The last thing I want is for that bag to disappear and end up in fucking Honolulu and I'm in fucking Italy. So So make sure because there is a difference, what you can carry on and what you can actually put in a bag that you are checking in. Mm-hmm. And then again, like I said, make sure if you're going to Mexico, find out what you're allowed. And Mexico's on this list, and Mexico is just as I'm sorry, don't hate me out there, but it's just as corrupt as Thailand, guys.
Yeah. That's no secret.
definitely. Yeah, you're going to get away with a lot in Mexico, but you better have a lot of dollars if you want to get away with that. And again, most of the places I checked are the big cities: Mexico City, Cabo, and a couple of the other places. Yeah, vaping is illegal there. Yeah, vaping is available to you, but if you leave the resorts that you are attending, a lot of us that go to Mexico book vacations in resorts, and those resorts are responsible for you. So they try to keep you in that resort for obvious reasons. So you spend your money within that resort, that keeps money in their pocket. But once you leave that resort, they're no longer responsible for you. So keep that in mind. Once you leave that resort, you run into whatever they call them. I forget, they got a name for the policia, whatever they call
What, in Mexico?
them. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
policia.
the policia can do whatever they fucking want to you once you leave that resort. So yeah, they're going to see you vaping and they're going to pull you over. And like Tim said, I've heard some crazy stories where and I'm not kidding. I had friends that were pulled over because they had the wrong kind of tires for the area that they were in. This is
What?
what this is what the police are. And this is just their way of getting $40, $50,
Yeah, yeah,
$60 out of
yeah.
it.
They find any violation just to get you
Yeah,
to
yeah,
cough up some coin. I get it. Yeah.
yep, yep. So
Yeah.
it's
So
very
I reached
yeah,
out to
good.
my Brazilian connection,
There you go.
and I asked, I said, my question was, I said, are the cops bullies in your country? Will they just tear a store apart looking for vape stuff, or are they corrupt? And if the store pays them 1,000 real, they'll just walk away. And the comment back was, she said, I don't think they care about vaping, but
Yeah.
she said, but if they did, they'd be corrupt.
Yep.
That
Yep.
was the comment.
Yep. Corrupt. Yeah, corrupt. Yeah, just reading that statement with Brazil, this is one of the countries that has banned vaping early. This is one of the early adopters of banning of vaping. This country goes back to 2009, guys. So it's been banned there a long time. So you think about that, since 2009 it's been banned, but yet there are 1,000 stores of this company, and they account for 25% of the market of vaping products in that country. 25%, that's a huge number, guys. Yeah, Tim.
Follow-up comment, and she said, I think it's forbidden. Well, we can know that because it's banned, but she says, but
Yeah,
she's seen people on the street in Brazil vaping.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
people are getting it.
Yeah, they're getting it. I mean, the actual store is selling it. They're willing to take $1,000 fine per day for breaking the law. So
Mm.
to me, that's telling me they're making way over whatever.
They're making
If they're
enough money to
25,
pad that fine.
yeah, they are. They're like 1,000. Yeah, I don't know any words in Brazilian, but I'm sure it's like, yeah,
I
fuck
don't
you.
either. I don't speak Portuguese yet, so
Yeah,
at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, yeah, fuck you. Go ahead, take it. Here's 1,000. I'm sure there's a guy that's just standing there every day that just writes a check for $1,000.
Sure. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, but it's a system, right?
yeah,
Like every, I mean, even cops here in America are corrupt. I
yeah,
mean, I hear
yeah,
stories about, you know, correctional officers, like just bringing in cell phones and drugs and
yeah.
vapes and cigarettes and all that stuff.
Strip
Like,
shirts, strip
where
shirts.
there, where there, where there is a monetary advantage for anyone, you're gonna find corruption, and
Yeah,
people are going to let stuff slide through. And I'm sure probably in a place like Brazil, they probably have their own version of like gangs and cartels and stuff who are
yep.
tapped into at the cops at the border for shit coming off of ships and
Yeah,
containers, and they probably are paid off to let stuff slide through. So
yeah, and you got to consider, I hate saying it, but the pay scale to be a cop in Brazil is probably nowhere near the pay scale of, say, a police
let's check
officer.
Indeed. No, I'm joking.
I mean, his pay scale might be just enough to survive in Brazil with a family of five. So yeah, I mean, is he? Are there some good cops that are just saying that's enough? But yeah, there's always a cop that hey, I can make a couple extra bucks here and there by, uh, just hanging out at the airport and catching some tourists coming off a plane, hitting his vape in front of the airport. I mean, you think about it, a cop could probably make a couple $100 a day just sitting at the airport. So I get it. So I mean, it got so bad in Thailand that you had the prime minister just eventually just say, you know what, we can't do this no more. Nobody's going to come to Thailand anymore. That kind of even sends a kind of a message to us is just how vaping has become such a big deal in Thailand, even though these are all we're all right now. We're all talking about countries that have just completely banned it. It's not a flavor issue. It's not the nicotine level issue. It's not about nic salt. It's a complete ban, guys. This is no. You can't have this stuff here at all. Period. Whether you're a tourist or a resident of that country. So when you have a country like Thailand that says it's gotten so bad and so corrupt that we have to just say fuck the fines, it's still banned, but let's just fuck the fines. We're just going to just let it continue to happen. I mean, eventually, don't you think that the prime minister of Thailand needs to kind of look at this issue and say, maybe this is some revenue we can bring into our country? Yeah, and maybe this is going to help us. I don't know what the what do you call it, the healthcare system is there in Thailand, but I'm sure it's government. It's a government program, I'm sure, right, Tim? I'm
For
sure it
what?
is in Thailand. The healthcare, it's got to be a
Oh,
government
I'm
thing.
sure they probably have
Yeah,
some
yeah,
form of socialized healthcare where, I mean, because
right.
you think about those countries, I mean, a lot, especially a lot of other countries, unless they're absolutely first world, more than likely have a large situation with poverty and low income. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure there's probably a lot of low paying jobs. I mean, you can go on TikTok any day of the week and you can see the girls working in the factories in China, and all they do is put AirPods inside the case all
yeah.
day long, and I bet you they make chump change by the end of that day. They'd probably do thousands. I did happen to look up what a police officer makes in Brazil, though, if you'd like be curious to
Hit
know.
me with it.
Yep.
It's got to
So
be sad numbers.
the median salary per month is roughly 21,725 real, which if you'd use a converter, that equates to about almost 4,400 a month. So they're pretty much on par with someone probably making roughly 80 grand a year.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, not
That's
far. Now on the low end of that, about
yeah.
1,800 a month.
1,800 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Steve, you're right. All these countries have signed an agreement with the WHO. That is one of the requirements from each one of these countries that has banned vaping. And that's something when I was on this website, every single one of them, that was like the first thing in each paragraph that was talking about how they have signed an agreement with the WHO and the following certain nicotine regulations and campaigns that they're supposed to do with vaping and as well as cigarette smoking in certain places and areas in their country. So that was all tied in together. That was something I noticed right away because I kept typing into this one website, and that was the first thing that kept coming up was the WHO. So, and each one of these countries that has, like I said, each one of them that have banned vaping has signed an agreement with them that they would follow their guidelines as far as where you can smoke, where you can't smoke, what vaping banned or not banned, flavors. So yeah, they're a big part. They're a big part of where a lot of these countries decide on their regulations. So, but yeah, to me, uh, Thailand doesn't make any sense. I mean, how frustrating can it be for you? I mean, how do you even discuss that with the public? You can't even say, "Hey, we have to," even if you bring in the kids, it's like we want to enforce this and keep the kids safe, but you know, our law enforcement is corrupt.
Well, I think the citizens know that too. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think that it's some, I'm sure they probably shudder a little bit when a cop comes around if they're doing something that they explicitly know that they shouldn't be doing. I mean, I can't imagine that any experience in a Taiwanese prison,
yeah,
or Taiwan and Thailand are two different places. Tim, get your head back on
yeah,
your shoulders. In a
yeah,
Thailand prison is enjoyable by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm pretty sure that most people know. I'm sure at this point, most people probably know what shit they can get away with and what shit they can't get away with.
Well, I think too with that situation there in Thailand, I think the locals have realized that they could get away with a lot more because I let's be honest, the police, the law enforcement or whatever you want to call those fucking guys, they know they're not going to get much from the people that live in that area because they don't have a lot. But if that whole focus was on tourism and going after it kind of makes me think how many fucking people are vaping? How many people are going to Thailand and vaping? That's kind of an impressive thought. If you think about it, it's kind of impressive because if it's gotten to the point that they're focusing on tourism, that kind of sends a message to me that there are a lot more people than we think that are actually vaping that are going into Thailand, that it's such a big issue, right? I mean, can you kind of see where I'm going with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, they clearly they don't want to prevent people from making a decision to come to their country and spend money
Yeah,
there because tourism attracts them. But
yeah.
I still think the underlying premise applies, and I'd be curious to know how people cope in those situations because there are people who are adamant that they're just not, they don't want to smoke again, they'd rather vape.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you'd think that, there would be some kind of forgiveness, for,
The locals.
well, no, I'm talking about the us who go into the country to go
Okay.
go vacation there. I mean, it's a little rude to think that, because of their laws that, you'd have to revert to smoking for a week while you're there, just to go ahead and get by. And is that really a detriment to your journey if you had to revert and go back to smoking for a week? Yeah, probably not. I
Yeah.
don't think that it's a dagger on your success from quitting smoking. I think most people who are entrenched in vaping are well entrenched. I don't think
But
we're eager to start smoking.
you've been just something you just said just now. Sorry for interrupting you, but like you've been in that situation. You talked about it before being in Dubai,
Yep.
but that was early in your vaping.
Singapore was the same way.
Yeah, early in your that was early in your vaping journey. I mean, today you're not if you knew you had to go 5 days. Let's say you go to Dubai now, and you're not going to go 5 days smoking. I don't see you doing that.
Well, no. I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, I w- Dubai is an interesting place. I'll
yeah.
put it to you this way. I mean, it's a Muslim city,
You're
right?
going to
I mean,
find a way to get a vape
well,
device.
I would try to give it a shot and see if I could
Yeah,
if I couldn't get it. Now, if everything got confiscated at the border, I
yeah.
don't at this stage in the game, I don't have any contacts in Dubai that can find shit, hidden in a corner or something like that. And I probably would be reluctant to go walking around and openly ask anybody
Right.
if there was something. Now, if I was in an office scenario and I had some connections there, I might side ask them and go, "Hey, look, I really don't want to go buy a pack of smokes. I really
Yeah.
don't want to get to that point, but I'm fiending, and do you know of any place where I might be able to get a vape?" I guarantee you,
Yeah.
those people
Someone's going
will
to help you out.
know the little place that you can go. That if you just say, some code word, you can probably get your hands on it. But I will say this about Dubai, and I would say that's one place that I learned very quickly that you don't want to question the authority there. And I'm not going to tell a long story, but I was trying to leave. I was not trying. I was
Oh,
leaving
yeah.
the
I know. You told
I
me
was
this
I
story.
was leaving the country, and in Dubai, the city is oversaw by a king, right, or a sheikh or whatever they call themselves. And he, at his luxury, decided to start fining everybody who opted not to fly on Arab Emirates out of the country, right? So obviously he wants people spending money on basically his private sanctioned airline. I was on, KLH, or, a derivative of United or whatever the fuck I was on. And they sent me to a little room. Like, I got up to first of all the dudes in the security guys in the line are all like 6'4", like 280 pounds, right? They're big friggin' dudes, not necessarily fat by any stretch. And
Yeah.
so then you get up to the counter, and she wants your boarding pass and your passport, and she stamped that thing super fast and gave me the shit back, and she was like, and pointed back to the room, "Go," you
Go,
know,
go.
and of course, and she's ominous, right? Because you can't barely see her. Like, you only get that much of her sitting there,
Yeah.
and she's got this very boisterous voice. So they sent me to this little room where inside this little room, there was this tiny little pipsqueak guy sitting at a table who couldn't have been more than about 80 pounds, soaking wet with a brick in his hand, and two 350-pound, 6'4" guys flanking him. And behind him on the wall was nothing but a massive display of scimitars.
Yeah.
A scimitar is just another word for a sword. Okay,
Swords.
you don't want to fuck around. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, that tells you right then and there, you don't want to, try anything. I don't think going into Dubai, like, I'd probably take my chance, and I'd probably
Yeah.
take something low dollar, like, like a $25 or $30 device that if it did get taken, I wouldn't have my ego hurt too bad about losing the
Yeah.
coin.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't go over there and try to get in, your high dollar stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't take your Yeehee or your evolved DNA 250C, with you.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
do that. You don't
Your
want
$400 mech mod.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't think,
Yeah.
I think you could probably push the envelope a little bit, and you probably get pretty lucky. They might see it in your bag and not really understand what they're really looking at, but sometimes they just random want to pull your bag apart, and that
Yep.
probably be the moment you lose it.
Yeah, you can be that one guy, that one out of 15 or one out of 20 that they decide to just kind of pull to the side. I mean, and check your shit. I mean, I've been in that situation. I mean, I've gone to Italy one time, and when I went to Italy, I was that guy. I went through the thing, everything was cool, and the guy, just pointed over to that, over to that area. Did I look like a terrorist? I have no idea, but I was just, like I said, maybe I was one of 100 that needed to be checked. So,
Yeah.
I just went in the room, and they ripped open both of my bags, and I still to this day I feel like it was premeditated, because they already had my 2 bags that I checked in on the table. So, when I got in that room. So I kind of felt odd about that. I was like, how do you already have my 2 bags? So to me, I kind of thought maybe they did select me as someone that they were going to check as I was going on to my flight. So yeah, but I mean, that's what today's show is pretty much about, guys. I mean, it's just, we have a lot of money invested in a lot of the stuff that we own. And sure, we want to take the stuff and make sure we stay away from cigarettes and this other stuff. But then you have to take some time, pay attention to what the airlines say that you can and can't bring, what can be in a carry-on bag, what can be in a check-in bag. Find out where you're going, pay attention to the laws and regulations there, the fines as well. I mean, some of these fines, they're jail time, guys.
Yeah.
This is serious shit. This isn't pay your $400 and go home. Some of these places, you're going to fucking jail.
Yeah, well, that's what it's more about for me, is that,
Yeah.
I think the average person traveling abroad probably won't take the time to fully understand what the laws are going into that country. They're just going to assume that naturally, if you can do it in your country, you can do it in the other country.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just something that you specifically have to pay attention to, because it could be very traumatizing to end up at a border crossing at a customs check-in, and they yank something out of your bag that to you, is innocuous in this country.
Yeah.
Because you're allowed to do it, and then they tell you that no, that is specifically banned, and you're basically breaking some significant law in their country, and and now all of a sudden, you're trying to get the U.S. Embassy to get you home.
Good luck with that. I'm here because they took my vape.
You could end up in a work camp, at some point, shoveling rocks. I don't know.
And I hate saying this, but I'm going to be the first to agree with this statement, because I've seen it firsthand in Italy. I've seen it in Amsterdam. I've seen it in Ireland. This "I'm American" attitude doesn't fucking work everywhere, guys.
Yeah, they're like,
So
I don't
if you,
care.
yeah,
We hate you
exactly.
anyway. So
I seen a guy try to pull that "I'm American" in Italy,
Yeah.
and the guy just kind of looked at him like, "You're a jackass. You're not in America anymore, buddy. You're on Italian soil. You're at their disposal. By the time you think you can get out of the airport and get to the embassy is a joke. I mean, and they're not going to let you go. When you get to the embassy and you bring up vaping, I'm not saying that the embassy is going to laugh at you and think this is petty. They're going to think this is stupid, pay your fine, move on. They're not going to try to help you. They're not going to try to get you a lawyer to get you out. You're not Brad Pitt. You're not Angelina Jolie. You're just John Truncali from Modesto, California to
Yeah.
them. That's it. So yeah, just take a few minutes and research where you're going. And like I said, it's summertime, it's vacation. Some of us are making trips. Some of us are going to Mexico. And I don't think, kind of looking around a little bit in the United States, I don't think we run into a lot of issues as far as what we can and can't bring in certain places in the U.S. The only thing that you may consider if you're traveling abroad here in the United States is to pay attention that some cities may, or states may not have flavors. So
Yeah.
that's something you may need to take into consideration when you are traveling outside of your city or your state. That, hey, maybe I need to take a 120 instead of a 60 or a 30, because guess what,
Flavor
Utah
ban in
doesn't.
that state.
Yeah, yeah. So pay attention to that as well. I mean, you're not going to, you're not going to get arrested here. Uh-oh. Are you
What
still
happened?
there, Tim?
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
here.
know.
I'm here.
Oh, that's okay. I'm back. I don't know. My screens just went out.
Oh.
That was weird. Yeah, no. So just kind of pay attention to that as well. I mean, you're not going to get arrested. There's no fines here in the United States that I know of. I don't think you're going to get arrested here for having vapes, but you may run into the situation that Connecticut, you may be in Connecticut. And again, like Tim has brought up before, you may not know nobody in Connecticut,
Yeah.
so you might not be able to get that fucking mango fucking strawberry vape that you love so much. So take some, that's the thing that really kind of, this is all about today, is trying to avoid that situation where you feel like you're backed up into a corner where you think you have to go buy a pack of cigarettes. That's kind of what this show is about today. And I know, like, some people like myself and Tim that have been vaping for a long time. I'll be honest, Tim. How many days do you think you could get by before? Be honest. How many days do you
Before
think
I
you could
really
get?
was like anxious
I
and was
gotta buy a
started to
pack of
break
cigarettes.
down.
Yeah,
Uh, I think if it didn't involve a lot of alcohol and was mired
just a
in.
normal stressful day that you have.
Yeah,
No alcohol. Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I can't make any guarantees that I would be able to go an extended amount of time before I really just kind of finally broke down and did something just to get the fix. I mean, I might be ashamed of myself and
yeah,
embarrassed. I don't think that, that I could personally penalize myself for having to take that route. And I go back to my earlier comment, even if it
yeah,
came down to the point to where that was your only resort at that moment in time, I don't think 5 days of smoking some cigarettes would be
yeah,
enough to cause me to come back home and be like, oh, I better go buy a carton and have it here at the house because, I might want a cigarette, every once in a while. I've been in those situations before, and I can tell you this much: the moment I was out of those countries where I couldn't do it, like Dubai and Singapore and stuff like that, I picked up my vape the moment I
right,
could and was right back to vaping and did not even consider buying a cigarette here in America. So,
right,
sometimes you
right,
just have to adapt to the situation. I think
right.
what's more risky is trying to get your stuff through those customs agents and not really understanding which ones are very severe about their regulation and
Yeah,
how they treat foreigners. I mean, you have to look at it from that perspective too.
yep.
Everywhere we go in this world doesn't mean that we're uniquely respected by other countries. Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of countries that you can go to where they immediately, just because you're guilt by association, I mean, you might be the sweetest person on the planet and you just love everybody pink, purple, orange, green, polka dotted with unicorn horns coming
Yep,
out of their head. That's all fine and dandy, but they don't like Americans because
yep,
of our policy or whatever it is. And if they have a personal vendetta about their feeling on America, you're just going to
yeah,
be by proxy. So
yeah,
you're going to be that example
Yep.
and they're not going to care how sweet you are. You're going to get locked up in jail. And like John said, does the embassy not care? I'm sure they, into some sense, they probably care a little bit, don't want to see you in the clink, but you being an average citizen, and they'll look at you like, well, you should have known the laws before you went in.
Yep.
We can't really say that you were falsely imprisoned or anything like that. And then you probably, if you can get a good lawyer involved who can work with the embassy, I'm pretty sure that eventually something will break. But
Yeah, there's a payout coming, Tim.
you're
There's a
you're
payout.
not worth a gun running terrorist,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
get you out of that prison.
Yeah, let's just be out. There's a payout. You're going to be paying somebody to get out,
Yeah.
and that sucks because you're on vacation. You're on vacation. You should be able to enjoy your vacation and not be put in that predicament. So again, focus on what the airline allows you, what the country you're going to allows, and even kind of the same thing in Tim's. So if you're going on a ship, find out what the ship allows. Where are you allowed? Hey, when you get on there, Tim, was it on a brochure? A brochure.
A brochure? A brochure? No,
I'm having one of those.
Daniel,
Was it
no,
on a brochure? Whatever. I can't say it right now.
no.
But
There
was it
wasn't any brochure that they were handing out that kind of
that
gave you
said
like
where
an
you can
easy to
go to vape?
read. Here's what you can and can't do. Here's where you have to
No, I
go.
mean where you could go. Was there a paper somewhere on the ship, or that
No,
was
you go
handed
to
to you?
Royal
This,
Caribbean's. You go to Royal
yeah,
Caribbean's website and you search for
yeah,
vaping, and
yeah.
it's usually included with smoking. And they will
Okay.
they will certainly tell
Brochure.
you, yeah, brochure. Well, I was
There you go.
joking because you said brochure, and I'm like, no, that
I
guy
know, dude.
that guy played for the Washington Capitals
Yeah,
probably
he
about
does.
15 years ago. He was the heavy on the ice. He was the
I
bruiser,
know
and
who you're
he
talking
yeah,
about.
Daniel Brashear was his name.
Yeah, Daniel.
Anyway, but no, you really have to do your due diligence, and you have to
Yeah,
go and read what you're up against. And yes, really easily on the website you can see where vaping and
yeah,
smoking are allowed in designated areas, and that's all you really need to know. The trickier ones are when you're entering into a country and you have these
right.
sort of double-tongued explanations of vaping, like Jamaica or something like that. We're like, well, vaping's allowed in places where smoking's allowed.
Yeah,
But then they kind of twisted their words, and then they made these other comments about how that it could be confiscated by the customs agents at the border because you're not allowed to bring the vaping products in. And that doesn't really have anything to do with being a conflict of their law. To say, well, if you're allowed to smoke a vape in the country, why can't you bring it into the country? That goes back to other things, and that goes
right.
back to and ROG and all the Aussie and the Kiwis from New Zealand can, well, New Zealand's a little different, but you can't bring a fucking apple into Australia. You
Right.
get to the
Right.
customs line and they go through your bag. You got one apple because you were hungry and grabbed it at the airport, in the shops because you were hungry and you just didn't eat it, and you throw it in your bag. They will not let you bring that in, and that's because they don't want poisons or any other foreign
Yep.
substances coming into the country that will taint their food chains and
It's an
their
island.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so with that said, that's really what that is more about. Same thing. Like I went on the cruise a few years back, and at that time, who I was married to, I had spent some time in Spain and was really used to their smoked
Her name will
meats.
not be mentioned.
No, we
Her name
don't.
will
This
not
is the person we this is the name we don't speak of. But with that said, I got really used to eating a lot of the dry, the cured and dried meats that they had in Spain, like
Yeah.
fuet and chorizo and that stuff. Now we have chorizo or chorizo, people here call it, but it's more like sausage here. Over there, it's more
Yeah.
like a salami, a hard salami,
Yeah,
hard
hard
salami stick,
salami.
and you cut little slices off of it, and you can't
Fucking
get that here in
delicious.
America on the import. So, or you can import it, but it'll cost you like $300 to get this little
Yeah.
stick of meat, and you're like, "What the fuck did I pay $300 for?"
Yeah.
But a friend of ours from Spain was on the boat and brought us a bunch of meats from Spain that we could take it back home. Sure as shit, we got off the boat and went through customs. They took it all out of. Are you bringing in any food or anything like that? And we were like, yeah, it's just some dried meats from Spain. And they're like, I need it all. You got to turn it all in. So we had to, even though it was vacuum packed and.
Someone ate good that night, Tim.
That's what I said. Some cop put that stuff in his little duffel bag and went home and had a great Spanish meal. But
honey, look
yeah,
what I got.
right. So in Australia, so that's really what I would emphasize is that, you know, the judgment of it coming into the country, they have reason for cause to take it, not because you're a vapor or anything like that. It's just because that stuff can't come in.
Yeah.
So you need to be cautious. You can push the envelope, but don't be shocked if they take it.
Yeah, I don't know what show I was watching, but it's one of those custom shows, and it was people coming into New Zealand, and they wouldn't allow the guy's golf cleats to go into the country because he had grass particles from where he lived in his golf cleats.
So they wouldn't just clean his freaking cleats off?
Yeah. They were like, you can't bring these cleats in. They got particles from grass, so they don't want whatever crabgrass or whatever it was from where he lived to infest their island, which again makes a lot of sense. You're an island. So, but again, you know, these are the laws that are in place in these countries. And yes, we are a visitor into these countries. So it's in your best interest to do your research, guys. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of our shit ain't cheap. And it's not getting any cheaper, to be honest. I mean, I hear lately have seen anywhere from to me personally, I've seen anywhere from a 15 to 25% increase in hardware, and I've seen anywhere from about a 10 to 15% increase in e-liquid here in the last couple months. So our shit's not cheap. And again, you're on vacation, so a lot of times you do want to grab maybe that little bit better mod that you have, you know, because, you know, you're on vacation. You want to have that nicer mod with you. And again, a lot of times I'm this way. I'm sure Tim is this way. You want to take the device that you feel not only comfortable using, but that is reliable. And a lot of times that reliable device is the one that costs a lot of money. What is it?
Use a little grass and which one are you talking about, Steve?
Yeah, which one?
Yeah, which one? The one you're not supposed to walk on because Grandpa is gonna beat your ass.
Yeah.
Or is it the classic? Don't stay on my grass. I plan on smoking it. That kind of thing.
Tim brings up something. I'm starting to laugh because when I was, I think I was 13 or 14, me and my next door neighbor decided we were going to start our own lawn care service. We were going to mow lawns and make money during the summer. So again, I'm 13, 14 years old. Summer's here. We ended up getting about 5 or 6 lawns. We ended up getting this extra lawn. This guy always told us no. And for some reason that day, he said, yeah, cut the front and the back. And he told us everything to stay away from, but neglected to tell us to stay away from his pot plants. So, of course, we see these, we think they're weeds. So what do we do with our lawnmowers? We ran over his weed plant and chopped them all up.
Like, that was my hybrid, man. I friggin' injected that seed. I raised it from a baby, and you just run over it with your friggin' Toro.
I ran it over, and my buddy Troy weed whacked it with their weed whacker and chopped it down to little pieces. It was, you know, because some of it was about 3-4 feet high, so he just took the weed whacker to it and just cut it right down, you know. And he comes in the back. Yeah, that guy came out. He just started yelling at us. We had no idea what we did wrong. He's screaming at us, "I'm not paying you!" So we didn't know what we did wrong. We went back to the house. I told my mother. He told his mother. So both of our mothers drive over to his house and start yelling at him. Yeah, they're yelling at him because he wouldn't give us our $10. It was like $5 for the front. This is 1982, guys, where we cut lawns for $5. It was $5 for the front and $5 for the back. And he wouldn't give us our $10, and we scream it. And then he finally tells our parents that we chopped his marijuana plants, and they felt bad, but they didn't want us to know what we had done wrong. so they went ahead. Our parents gave us $5 each for cutting his lawn and told us to stay away from his house.
Yeah, well, see, the thing, he was close to harvest, so that's why he was bent out of shape. I mean, if it was
Yeah, he
probably just
was.
a little baby, he probably wouldn't have cared too much. But you probably got him right before bud season, so
Yeah, he cut that fucker
I'm pretty
down.
sure you. Hey, John, you want to run down the list of all the countries that have vape bans? I can read them for you.
Yeah, I have the
All right,
list, but go ahead
so
and read them off.
yeah, I'm gonna read them down, and then if you
Yeah,
guys are planning on going there, if
yeah.
we call this name out, I'm pretty confident. I would say probably 80% of this list none of you will ever go to. But and I'll be lucky if I'm able to pronounce some of them as
yeah,
well.
baby, I get to get you
Yeah.
now. All right,
Yeah,
go.
so I hope that you did your
Hold
pronunciation homework.
hold on. Let me get this right. Hold on here. Hold
Yeah,
on. Wait a
okay, yeah,
minute.
you can put yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So there, some I'll have no problem. Some
There
I'll
we go.
right. I'm front and center, right? Let's see how bad Tim can jack this one up.
Hold on.
So
Salute.
yeah, so
Salute.
here we go. All right, here goes nothing. Right. So don't go to Thailand. It's banned in Thailand.
Yep.
Australia,
Yep.
Singapore, Brazil, India, Mexico or Mexico for those who still like to pronounce their X's, Uruguay, Oman, Panama. Yeah, does so you can bring any Van Halen CD you want into that country. You can't bring your vape. All right. Don't choke and die on me yet. All right. Cambodia. Now, here's one I'm probably going to butcher a little bit, but I'm going to say it, and I think I got it right. Brunei, 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 Lebanon, Venezuela, Colombia. Well, you can just go there and just get fucking Coke, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
Austria, Turkey,
the
UAE, which is the United Arab Emirates, which encapsulates several provinces. So that's kind of like a collective, like the UK. So you got to be careful in the UAE.
Yep.
Bhutan. What I don't know where Bhutan is. Where the frick is Bhutan? Bhutan. It's a Buddhist kingdom in the Himalayas. All right.
Okay. Let me hold on. You know what Bhutan means in Sicilian, Italian?
Probably ass or something.
Bitch.
Really?
Yeah.
So don't go to bitch, folks. Don't go to bitch. You can't vape.
Don't go there.
You can't vape and bitch. All right, just letting you know. Actually, in the Himalayas, that would actually be pretty kind of cool to go there, just to go to Himalayan peaks and stuff and see like some of the shit going
As a
on.
hiker, I would. That's like on my list. That in Ireland.
Can't vape. Yeah. Uganda. And I wouldn't fuck around in Uganda. I'm just letting you know. It wasn't Idi Amin from Uganda? Wasn't the dictator Idi Amin from Uganda?
Yeah. That's a good point Tim brings up. Keep in mind, some of these places that Tim, there's no fucking around at these places. There is no slapping a wrist. So go ahead, Tim.
Yep. I got two more to go. Nicaragua. Don't vape and don't bring it. It's banned in Nicaragua. Ooh. And here is the hardest of them all. And I know I'm going to butcher this one. I'm guessing it's some kind of a French derivative. Seychelles, Seychelles. Seychelles. I don't know. I'm not a French model. The Seychelles, which is plural, is an archipelago of 115 islands in the Indian Ocean off of East Africa. So you can't. So if you plan, I know that everyone was working with their travel agent diligently last night to get that trip booked to the Seychelles. Just letting you know, don't bring your vape. You don't want to get caught with your pants down in the Seychelles.
Yeah.
Well, seashells down by the seashore.
Except for vape.
Boom. Just don't bring your vape.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, that was the main reason for this. Again, it's summertime. We all start to travel. And I'm not going to pretend like it's just a U.S. thing that people travel during the summer. One of my things that I do every summer, and it starts this month, and goes all the way until September, is I visit Yosemite anywhere from 3 to 4 times within that span. And Yosemite is a perfect place to meet people from all over the world. It is absolutely amazing the people I run into on the bus when I'm traveling from site to site in Yosemite. People from Russia, people from England, people from China, people from all over the world there. And, granted, they have a lot less to worry about when they come here than, say, we do. Unfortunately, like Tim's brought up, yeah, we are kind of not everywhere. I'm not going to pretend like it's everywhere, but a lot of people say, them fucking Americans, So
Yeah.
just be careful, guys.
Yeah.
Pay attention, like we said, what you can put in your carry-on bag, what you can put in your check-in bag. Make sure where you're going that you're allowed to take what you're taking. Again, you're kind of limited to like the vape gear. You're not so much, depending. It depends, but the e-liquid is where they're going to get you, because a lot of airlines will allow so many milliliters of e-liquid on your carry-on bag. I'm not too sure, Tim. Is there a limit on the check-in? Can you
I
put?
forgot 3 countries. I'll get back to those. Say that
Yeah,
again, or what was the question?
I'm not sure if there is a limit on the milliliters of e-liquid that you can check in a bag. I mean,
Well,
that's
they
kind of,
you're hard pressed to take your
yeah,
120s and your 100s. You're gonna
right.
have to break them down to 30s. I think that's the
Yeah,
maximum, liquid size. Like, I used to be paranoid because, I'm like
I think
every
that's all I got away with. I think that's
I
all I
just
got
bring
was
you can
30s.
bring you can bring quite a few 30s and not really have any challenge there. Because I used to freak out. Because remember when they were, like, all about the toothpaste and everything?
Right,
Like,
and the
I've had my
soaps.
toothpaste taken from me because I had the
Yeah,
big tube, and
yeah.
they don't like
You
that.
can't
They
you
don't
can't have
they
that
don't
big
you can
tube,
put it in a
baby.
check bag, but not in your carry-on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I missed
Yes.
3. I missed 3. I
Good.
missed Argentina.
Yep.
So if you're a Messi fan and you love soccer and shit like that, can't vape around Messi. Malaysia, he's retired, by the way. He retired after the World Cup. Um,
You're right, Steve.
and here's the other one, and everyone loves to say Qatar, but it's not pronounced Qatar. It's I'm serious. It's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
serious moment, John. It's not Qatar, it's Qatar.
Cutter.
It's
Yeah,
Qatar. So
yeah.
that's kind of a weird one, but yeah, so you can't take it there either. And as a matter of fact, additional research led me to find out there are 47 countries with some form of a vape ban
Right.
of some kind. So just be careful as
Yep.
you internationally travel this summer.
Yep. It is the tobacco control laws. I'm going to put the website in the chat there, guys. You could put in any city, state, country in there, and it will tell you exactly and some of it, what I've noticed, some of it's up to date, some of it isn't. I'm not sure how much the laws may have changed in certain countries, say from when it was banned in 2020 till 2023. Some of the sites don't have updated stuff, but you can find out exactly what's going on in each one of these states and countries. And you can find who's supporting these laws and regulations in these states as well through this site. Let me put it up real quick here. Share screen. But this is what I used, and you can find just about everything. It's going to give you all the complete breakdown of what WHO has donated to these countries and what they have suggested as regulations and fines as well. It's a great site. I was able to find, and it does break down vaping in there as well. Unfortunately, vaping is part of it, but it will give you also smoking regulations, because Tim brought it up earlier as well. Certain countries aren't going to allow you to bring in a certain amount of cigarettes as well. It's not just a vaping thing, but some countries will only allow you to bring in certain amounts of cigarettes, and some will only allow you to take out certain amounts of cigarettes. So there's nothing worse. Look, I'll tell you a story. In the 80s, the 70s, I'll go back to the 70s. One of the things I remember being about 10, 11 years old, and watching my mom pack her suitcase, a whole suitcase, guys. I'm not kidding you, a whole suitcase full of Marlboro Reds. And the reason she was doing that is because the cigarettes cost a whole lot cheaper
Yeah.
in America than they
Yep.
did in Italy.
Yep.
And what did my cousins want as gifts? They didn't want T-shirts that said "Welcome to Hollywood," "Welcome to New York," or "I love New York," or "I love Philadelphia." They wanted cartons of cigarettes. So my mom would bring cartons of cigarettes into Italy, and I don't know how much that has changed today, but I'm sure there's a limit. So even that applies to whether you're bringing some, a family member, a few cartons of cigarettes into the country, that may get confiscated as well. So you can use that site as well that I posted in there. You can check to see how many cartons of cigarettes you're allowed to bring into that country, how much vape again you can bring into that country. Again, you're lucky here, but again, like I said before, uh, if you're going to Connecticut and you think you're going to get by with 30 mils of flavored e-liquid, well, think again, because you might have a really hard time finding that amazing mango fucking e-liquid in Connecticut. So keep that in mind. There are a few places where California as well, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey. Supposedly, New Jersey doesn't give a fuck right now. I guess you could walk into just about any vape shop right now and buy flavored e-liquid, even though it's banned there. But there's not worth taking a chance. Don't put yourself in that situation where you have to decide. And I go again, myself and Tim. Yeah, we've been doing this for quite some time. Yeah, I asked him how long he would go. I think I basically could probably go, maybe I'm pushing it 3 days
Yeah.
before
I'd say that I probably
yeah,
would be on the edge though, because I think
yeah,
where I would probably struggle the most would be, in probably at times when I become idle, or,
yeah,
like middle of the night, or things early in the morning,
yep,
or if I'm going out for dinner and there's drinks involved. And then, if there's people standing around and they're smoking around you, that's going to make it a hell of a lot harder to
yep,
just say no. I mean, you
uh,
probably start first night bumming them from people just to get by, but
yep,
you'll be at the now. Here's the benefit. Like in Dubai, when I had to buy cigarettes, they had the little poppers. Like all the cigarettes over there were all flavored. So you would
yep,
go in and you get like the ones that were like berry freeze, blueberry or whatever. And the cigarettes, you could smoke them regular, like a regular cigarette, but if you wanted the flavor, they had the little poppers in them, the little balls in there, and then you would get that you could do them
yep,
both or just one or whatever.
uh,
And so that was also a bit of an attractant, because we're so accustomed to flavors. We don't
yep,
want that nasty cigarette taste. And so those, I think, also made the decision easier to
yeah. Well,
procure.
you know why that
Pouches is a
was.
good one. I don't know about that, Steve. I
Yeah,
think nicotine
yeah,
pouches, I think you would have to look at the laws specific to that country if they had
yeah.
unique
I'm thinking
nicotine bans.
chewing tobacco is not big in Dubai. I'm thinking it can't be very big in Dubai,
I
huh?
can't remember like seeing it across
Snuff,
the
maybe.
counter. Yeah, pouches probably are like snus and pouches are
Yeah, yeah,
probably something that's a little bit more
yeah,
relevant, because I think those don't aren't viewed uniquely as
yeah,
like vaping, like a liquid, and this whole
yeah.
thing. They're more innocuous. There's this thing in a can that nobody can see and all that stuff.
James,
What's
you
up, James?
punished James. No, I'm kidding, James.
Better
Yeah.
late
No,
than never, I always say.
those little ball things. You know why they were designed, right? You know the theory behind them. They were supposed to be
Uh,
popped. They're supposed to be popped at the end of the cigarette to freshen your breath, so you didn't smell like you smoked a cigarette at the end.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the whole purpose of them. Is you're not supposed to pop it right at the beginning. You're supposed to pop it at the end to clean your palate. So it's just like you're not walking into your office, you're you're going to walk in there
Your
with
your
peppermint.
stank
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had like in Spain, they had the same thing too. Like they had like the lemon
Camel Crush,
limes
right?
that way
Yeah.
camel. Oh, yeah, they had lemon lime and like
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
other different ones. I didn't
Yeah.
particularly care too much for the lemon lime.
Yeah.
But like the berry ones were pretty good. And then of course the menthol ones. So you could have
Yep.
like it straight, or you could convert it to a mint or a menthol or something like that.
Yep. Well, great show, guys. Again, you guys pay attention. It is summertime. You're going to be traveling, whether you're traveling abroad or you're traveling within the United States. Pay attention to the laws in the cities and states that you're going to, the country you're going to. Again, pay attention to the airline, what you can and can't bring, what you can bring in your carry-on bag, what you can check in. And again, pay attention to what you are allowed to bring into a country. Don't get yourself into a situation where uh, you're having to repay for their vape gear. I mean, that sucks. So, where you already spent hundreds of dollars to get that mod, and now you're having to pay some corrupt customs agent or some corrupt cop for your device back. And let's be honest, I'm spending the $100. I'm not going to jail. Tim, you going to jail?
No, I'm not going to jail. And I would caveat that with, he just said that, you can pay somebody off to get your shit back. Be careful. You give somebody a bribe in another country too, and that might even get you in more deep water. So
yeah, exactly. It's a double bribe or whatever.
It's a double whammy, right there.
Double whammy. So yeah, just be careful, guys. It's like I said, it's summertime. We're all going to be kind of driving around, vacationing, enjoying our time. And yeah, don't put yourself in those situations. And also don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to have to decide whether to purchase a pack of cigarettes. Yes, some of us can make that transition and then just kind of go right back to vaping when we get home. And some of us may not be. We might not be in that situation. So if you are someone early in the in your vaping journey, don't put yourself in that situation. Try to avoid that and make some arrangements that you're going to have yourself covered. So, like I said, just be careful, pay attention to the laws and where you're going. Don't get yourself backed up into a corner. And a lot of times, again, I didn't bring this up, but a lot of these countries that Tim named off and I named, they're third world countries. There are going to be a lot of corrupt people there, and to them, they're feeding their family. So whether or not you think it's right or wrong, they don't consider it right or wrong. They're trying to feed their families. They're going to do whatever it takes to get money into their homes. So,
sure.
and don't, just don't back yourself up. Don't have to make a decision to buy a pack of cigarettes. If that's the situation you end up, you know what?
Don't go there.
Even if, don't go there. I mean, you could do all this stuff that we talked about, but there's a possibility. Yes. Don't get me wrong. You may run into that one fucking person that's just so corrupt. Yeah. No matter what you do, you're just going to be backing yourself up in the corner. But again, guys, everyone have a great summer. Summer is about to start here. And just be careful. Pay attention to where you're going. Pay attention to your environment. Don't get yourself backed up into a corner. Anything else you want to add, Tim?
You can vape on cruise ships.
In certain areas.
Yeah. That's all I got for right now.
Yeah, that's it, guys. Hey, everybody, thank you again, everybody in chat, for joining us. We'll see everybody back next week. Hopefully, everybody is feeling better and being back. Allie, again, was e-ciggity Summit out there, so she wasn't with us tonight. But this was fun, just me and Tim, the originals. The originals. Doing a show.
We know together. A little bit about a lot in this place.
That's right. A little bit enough to not get ourselves in trouble. Exactly. But yeah, that's it for us tonight. Thank you again, guys. Thank you, Tim. And we'll see everybody next Wednesday at what time, Tim?
7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Western, or Pacific, whatever the fuck you want to call that.
Yeah, that's it. Peace out, everybody. We'll see everybody next week.